vindicate the spirit, that they may rest from their labor, and their works do follow. Our brother John, and that we may at last receive the blessing, well done, good and faithful servant. Enter thou into the joy of thy...
We were of a kind, nearer you were than brother, whose hand clasped mine now dust your land beyond the heart's dark night.
He that believeth in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. And whosoever liveth and believeth in me shall never die.
It was here, on the northwest coast of Scotland, at Sandaig, or Camasfearna, as it's called in his books, that Gavin Maxwell's ashes were laid to rest.
Commit his body to the ground, earth to earth, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, in sure and certain hope of the resurrection to eternal life, through our Lord Jesus Christ.
And it was here, too, that he wrote the books that brought his otters, Midgebill, Edel, and Techo into the lives of so many people. Let his words and those of his friends tell his story.
Nowhere had I seen any place of so intense or varied a beauty in so small a compass. This was to be my new home.
Before the 1939-45 war, Gavin Maxwell had been a journalist. Later he tried portrait painting and writing poetry. He experimented with commercial shark fishing. The net result, his first book, Harpoon at a Venture. Now he was embarking on a solitary life, with only his dog for company.
Many people find an especial attachment for a dog whose companionship has bridged widely different phases in their lives. And so it was with Johnny. The remoteness and isolation of Camasfearna was to me a symbol of freedom from the prison of adult life, an escape into the forgotten world of childhood. And I needed to look long at some portion of the earth as it was before man tampered with it. The house wore that secretive expression that is in some way akin to a young girl's face during her first pregnancy. There was not one stick of furniture in the house, there was no water, no lighting, and the air inside struck chill as a mortuary. But to me, it was Xanadu. I knew that something to sit upon would present no problem, for my 5 years shark hunting around these coasts had taught me that every west-facing beach is littered with fish boxes. Beachcombing retains for me now the same fascination and eager expectancy that it held then. I slept through the night with my head pillowed upon Johnny's soft fleece-like flank, as years before I had been wont to in open boats. The beaches at Camasferna are a treasure house for any man whose eye finds wealth at the sea edge. They are rich in edible shellfish. English visitors who come to Camasferna are usually amazed at the variety of wildlife by which I am surrounded. Although the sea, the beach, and the burn, with its wildlife, give the place its essential character, the waterfall represents to me the soul of Camasferna. If there is anywhere in the world to which some part of me may return when I am dead, it will be there. Year by year, since that first afternoon when I entered the chill and empty house as bare as a weathered bone, the furnishings of my home have grown around me. It is now the most relaxing house that I know.
In 1955, Johnny died. And although Maxwell vowed never to own another dog, he did crave for some animal life about the house. In 1956, Maxwell spent 2 months amongst the marsh Arabs of southern Iraq to obtain material for his next book.
I had been searching for somewhere to go, where there was still something left to see that had not been seen and described by hundreds of my kind before me.
As a self-acknowledged homosexual, Maxwell was fascinated by the Arab world, a world of beauty, mystery, and wildness, where homosexuality was accepted as perfectly normal.
Good. Good. Yes, yes, very good.
By now, I decided that I should like to keep an otter instead of a dog. I was told by my companions that they were as common as mosquitoes in the Tigris marshes and often kept as pets. Nearly all marsh villages are built in the open water, and each house is a tiny island of its own. The house consists of a row of arches made from the giant reed Phragmites communis, over which reed matting is laid to form a structure not unlike a Nissen hut. The doorway faces Mecca and is also the only entrance for light. At this stage, I was entirely ignorant of the manners and customs that constitute good behavior in the Arab world. I knew the simplest forms of greeting, that one should be barefoot when entering a house, but should be careful to wear shoes outside for fear of hookworm, that the left hand is unclean and should only be used for unclean tasks. Arab hospitality is legendary, and during my travels in Iraq, I had to drink innumerable cups of coffee as a preliminary to conversation.
شلونك صابر؟ الله يحفظك. زين؟ الله يوفقك. حياك الله.
وشب الحدر وحق مكة وشب الحدر وموسى الهوى تذبح تشاتينا.
During his time among the marsh Arabs, Maxwell acquired Midgebill, the first of his famous otters. Midgebill belonged to a race previously unknown to science and was named Lutrigere perspicillata maxwellii, Maxwell's otter.
With the arrival of Midgebill began a phase of my life that is in effect a thraldom to otters, an otter fixation that I have since found to be shared by most other people who have ever owned one. Into this bright, watery landscape, Midge moved and took possession with a delight that communicated itself as clearly as any articulate speech could have done. He seemed so absolutely a part of his surroundings that I wondered how they could ever have seemed to me complete before his arrival. Otters are extremely bad at doing nothing. Midge set about exploring his new quarters with great enthusiasm. Midge slept in my bed and would wake up with bizarre punctuality at exactly 8:20 in the morning. All right, Midge, you win. I'm getting out.
Gavin Maxwell was very attractive to women, and with one in particular he had a long, intense, intellectual relationship. She shared his love of nature.
Look, Gavin, grey lags.
It's the first sign of spring when the grey lags fly north.
They were never lovers, but each loved this animal. Like most people, she was his willing slave, and often used to look after Midge during Maxwell's periodical absences abroad, in North Africa or in London.
Mussel pearls from Sandake shore, held in a shell as God whirls in the palm of his hand. These are treasures, sea life's toil, seed more rare than barren sand. Midge? 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 Where are you? Midge? 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 Kept an eye on him, he'd never have got away.
Don't be so silly. We both accept responsibility for him. Anyway, he belongs to me as much as to you, if not
I
more.
don't care who he
Stop
belongs.
it, you're just wallowing in it.
Oh, let me alone.
Although Maxwell was prepared to forgive her for the loss of Midgeville, the death of this mutual friend drove them apart. The rift widened, closed again, then yawned wide as Maxwell abruptly dismissed her from his life. Bitter at the way Maxwell had used her, she returned secretly to Camasfearna at night.
Let Gavin suffer in this place, as I am suffering now.
I missed Midge desperately. I mourned my fallen sparrow. He had filled the landscape so completely, had made so much his own every yard of the ring of bright water I loved, that it seemed, after he had gone from it, hollow and insufficient.
But there were consolations for him. 2 new otters, Edel and Teco, came from Africa, and he employed the boys, Jimmy Watt and Terry Nutkins, to look after them.
That one's Teco. Oh, it's beautiful. And Edel is over there.
Here he wrote his famous book, Ring of Bright Water. Tragedy must have seemed far away as he penned that first famous paragraph.
I sit in a pitch pine-paneled living room with an otter asleep upon its back and with the expression of tightly shut concentration that very small babies wear in their sleep. On the stony slab beneath the chimney piece are inscribed the words, Non fatuum hoc persecutus ignem. It is no will-o'-the-wisp that I have followed here.
For the moment, the daily routine at Sandag was as idyllic as that writing suggests.
Morning, Gavin.
Morning, Teddy.
Sleep well?
Fine, thank you. How was breakfast?
About 10 minutes.
I won't be coming with you this morning. I've got to finish my writing. Have the butter, please, Teddy. Thank you. And you're going to be doing the fences, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm going to try to.
How's Edel feeling, Jimmy?
Not too bad. Grub's up. Go.
The otters had to be fed twice a day, once in the morning, once in the evening. The eels, supplied by a fish restaurant in London called Manze's, were sent up twice a week by train. I'll go north along the beach, Jimmy. Which way will you go?
I think I'll go over the meadow and just down that part of the beach, all right?
In the afternoon, we'd probably take the otters for a walk. We'd tell each other which way we were going so that we didn't meet. Taco and Edel didn't get on at all.
Pass glass, Dan.
Who's that of, Gavin?
Oh, that's an interesting story. It dates back to the time when I used to paint for a living. We were working on it a few weeks. We were both very pleased with it. And one morning, when the picture was nearly completed, the lady's husband asked him into the library. There he tells me that he's divorcing his wife that morning, and since she commissioned the painting and since she wouldn't be getting any money, I wouldn't either.
It was a bit tough, wasn't it? Can you pass the glass?
The evening meal was the best time of the day. It was always very lavish. Every day a different dish. We lived better than royalty, especially when the money came in after Ring of Bright Water was published.
Jimmy and I thought we'd go to the pictures after supper, Gavin.
Oh, you did you? Well, you can't both go together.
Gavin loved to possess people. He was a very jealous man, a very emotional man. He always liked to have someone to lean on.
We're going then, Gavin, OK?
No, it isn't okay, Teddy. I refuse to sit here doing all the work, bringing all the money into the house while you two go after the films. It's just not on, old chap.
So what do we do now?
I don't know about you, but I'm off to the cinema. You coming?
I never saw him get as close to people as he did to the otters. The otters never answered back. They always willingly gave Gavin the warmth and affection he craved.
With the best-selling success of Ring of Bright Water, the problems began.
Solid. Glenelg 206. Yes, hello, Peter. The first incoming call was received on April the 11th, 1960. And in retrospect, the bell seems seldom to have been silent since. Good, good. Must get on. Bye.
The chore of writing became harder. After Ring of Bright Water, there was no delight in it. And in the wake of fame came publicity.
It won't be terrific if we can get a photograph of Mr. Maxwell. Take him to the kids.
Sure will.
Gavin, there's someone coming.
Here we are. Well, here goes. Hi, Gavin. Do you know we have traveled 3,000 miles to meet you? This is my wife.
Sir, if you really wish to travel 3,000 miles to meet a complete stranger, you might at least have shown more courtesy than to arrive unannounced at 7:30 in the evening. Now, what do you wish to know?
Slowly, the pressures began to build up. In 1961, Terry Nutkins was badly bitten by Edel and lost the tips of 2 of his fingers.
Teddy, close the door. I want to speak to you about Edel. Glenelg 206. Yes, speaking.
Gavin's office was like Piccadilly Circus. The phone never stopped ringing.
When do you want it by?
He not only had his own complex mind to deal with,
How many words?
but all the other pressures as well.
500.
People's demands for book reviews and so on.
I'll get it off to you by... I'll get it off to you by Monday. Yes. All right. Yes, goodbye. Where were we? Yes. Edel. I think it's probably better if you don't handle her again. Would you... Bells, bloody bells. For now, 2:06.
In 1962, Maxwell married Lavinia Lascelles.
I'd been given a red shawl as a wedding present, and I'd said to Gavin, doesn't it match beautifully with the car? And he said, now, darling, remember we are very unusual people. We have a red Mercedes and we roar along in it. You wear the red shawl. To Gavin, eccentricity was a virtue. The way of life at Sandegg was very attractive. I loved it. And of course, I loved the otters.
Oh, lovely. Oh. Beautiful, aren't you?
More what?
More beans. Beans with everything, that's my motto.
So long as it isn't otters with everything.
Put the fence up tomorrow.
Gavin asked Jimmy and myself whether we minded him getting married. He was very sensitive like that. We loved the idea. Lavinia did all the cooking, and it was very nice to have a woman about the house.
How about you, Terry?
I'm starving.
Good lad. There.
Thanks.
Oh, that's lovely. Lovely dog. Feast.
Gavin could be very affectionate, almost childlike. He had the emotions of an adolescent, and I think that ties up with his relationships with boys of that age, which obviously gave him enormous emotional satisfaction. Right. Rice, please.
The cost of running Sandegg was enormous. The royalties of Ring of Brightwater were drying up. A new book would have to be written.
It's the partial story of the succeeding years. Their difficulties, disasters, and delights.
Called The Rocks Remain, it was dictated into a tape recorder in under 2 months.
It's so minor as to seem comic, or so major as to appear tragic, seems to predominate. Just like the rocks that remain in the eye of the beholder.
Let's have this one next.
You don't want this one?
No, let's have this.
I want this one. What's the matter?
Turn that bloody thing down. How the hell do you expect them to work with that racket? Turn it down. Darling, did you come through?
Gavin was really Machiavellian in the way that he liked to create dramas. He thrived on that. I got on so well with the boys that he felt it threatened his special relationship with them. What's the matter?
Nothing's the matter with me. It's you. You're always so bloody bad-tempered.
Me? It isn't me.
Yes, of course it's you. If I say it's you, then it bloody well is.
Don't be so childish.
The boys are very upset about it.
That's nonsense, Gavin. We all of us lose our tempers from time to time.
But not so as often as you. They're fed up with it.
Oh, don't be so... You're talking rubbish.
Who's talking rubbish?
You are.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
You really love to create impossible dramas, don't you?
Sometimes, Gavin, I wonder why you ever married me. He never realized how Sandegg hemmed us all in. Nevertheless, I really missed it when Gavin and I broke up in 1963.
Long after the event, Maxwell heard of the Rowan Tree Woman's curse. Some say that Maxwell believed in it, even though the Rowan Tree Woman had forgotten her resentment within 48 hours. Others think that the curse was a convenient peg on which to hang all his misfortunes. And of course, being the man he was, Maxwell exploited it to the full in his last book, Raven, Seek Thy Brother.
The first 17 miles of road from Camasferna is single-tracked, barely wide enough for a car and bicycle to pass abreast. I had not, as I thought, emerged from this ridiculous accident unscathed. The blood supply to one of my feet was impaired. I was admitted to hospital on Boxing Day 1963 for a lumbar sympathectomy, an operation to restore the circulation to my foot. During my convalescence, I was working on the autobiography of my childhood, published in 1965 under the title The House of Elrig. In my helplessness, I was able to think as a child and to recall images and attitudes that would otherwise have been lost to me. I was born in the House of Elrig 3 months before my father was killed at Antwerp in October 1914. My mother had already produced 3 other children, my sister Christian and my 2 brothers Emma and Eustace. My mother and a succession of maiden aunts encouraged in her sons their father's interests with a particular emphasis on natural history.
Now, that's all there is to it, Master Gavin. Now then, let's see if we can find you a pigeon.
Many hours in the company of Hannum, the gamekeeper, had, by the age of puberty, produced in me a fervour for shooting that not even my father could have surpassed.
Good shot, Master Gavin.
In 1927, I was sent to Stowe School, the gigantic country mansion of the extinct Dukes of Buckingham and Chandos.
Matthews, will you, for the benefit of your assembled colleagues, be so kind as to decline the noun race?
Race, race, rem, ray, ray, ray.
Next, plural, please, cross.
Race, 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 rerum, rebus, rebus.
Where my mind was during those withdrawn form-room hours, I remember well. I was at Elrig. I look out over a long, declining grassy field, isolated between rough hill and heather. The world is full of birds' voices.
What have I just been saying?
I don't know, sir.
Well, have you anything to say?
Maxima debata pura reverentia. Great respect is owed to boys.
Who taught you that?
You, sir, last week.
And of all the classic dicta that I have tried to teach, that is all you remember. I might have expected as much.
Later, he discovered brandy. At Stowe, I found other boys as shy as I. The attitude at Stowe was permissive in general. Boys were allowed to keep dogs or any other pets they liked. I had my gun. It was an enormous satisfaction to me to discover that the other boy did not know how to gut a rabbit. I showed him, expertly and with contempt.
Nothing to it, is there? Oh, no.
When at length I returned to Camasferna in the late spring of 1964, I was completely helpless. I could take no part in the activity of others. I wrote increasingly long hours every day, but with an ever-growing sense of frustration. The otters, Edel and Teco, were confined in enclosures almost as in a zoo. There had been other attacks since Terry Nutkins had been savaged in 1961. The upkeep of Camasferna, centred around the otters, cost more than £7,000 a year. Brunel to Essex. Yes, Michael, what is it? Hell's bells. I don't believe it. I just can't understand how this has happened. Yes, very worrying. Then came a succession of body blows so massive that I came near to being knocked out of the ring altogether.
There must be some discrepancy.
First,
Yes.
the company's finances were far from what we imagined.
Thank you. Bye.
A year earlier, I had imprudently bought Isle Ormsay and Isle Kylakin together with their lighthouse cottages. I should have to try and raise mortgages on them. Good luck to me. I could do without this, you know.
Well, Gavin?
Didn't I? Then, the final decisive blow. Jimmy Watt decided, not unreasonably, that he must leave. Terry had already left. This was the death knell of Camasferna. I looked up for my writing, my attention attracted by the movements of an ant. I became childishly absorbed. The ant's adventure became mine. The first high fall, I remembered mine. My marriage had been a misery to both partners. The second fall, the otters imprisoned as a public danger, the idyll over, and the message lost somewhere in the world. The third fall, the motor accident, the hospital, and helplessness, the feeling of defeat, a slow, fighting defection from everything that had made my life what it was, an unwilling return to an unwanting womb.
Then Providence took a hand. Richard Frere, whom Maxwell had met earlier, agreed in May 1966 to take over the running of the company. It was a great weight taken off Maxwell's shoulders. Frere's loyalty and friendship did much to sustain Maxwell during the last years of his life.
We'll have to sell off the islands and the Mercedes and put the otters into a zoo, if we can find one that will take them.
Do what you think's fit.
It's the only way we'll stay solvent.
I told you, do whatever is necessary.
But I must have your approval.
Money, money, money. I wish to God I never had to think about it. When I was a child, it was never spoken of. It was just there.
Don't worry, Gavin. I'll look after it.
Nevertheless, I still felt the absolute necessity of occasionally getting away from my desk, at which I sat for something like 12 hours a day. This was my world. The cradle of my species, shared with the wild creatures. It was the only world I wanted, and I felt that I had no place at a writing desk. With the deer gone, I was left with 5 miles to walk home in the dusk. But I was content. Here, perhaps, I was beyond the range of the rowan tree.
It's hard to believe they had Terry's fingers. They look so peaceful.
In June 1967, I engaged Andrew Scott to help me at Camusfeana.
Smell a woman you've been involved with.
And that's what happened with Terry?
Terry, yes.
I realized that my own image of Camusfeana could not be truly recreated without restoring my relationship with Edel. For 5.5 years, no human had touched her. Yet the facts were there. She had inflicted terrible injuries. For my own safety, I laid out dressings, including surgical needle and thread. As an afterthought, I added a hypodermic syringe and cocaine solution.
All right, stay by the tree. Watch what happens from a distance. If I'm attacked and badly bitten, phone for the doctor, all right? For God's sake, keep those visitors away.
Good luck, Gavin.
Edel! Come on. Come on. Edel. Come on. Come on. Come on.
Come on. Come on.
With the restoration of my old relationship with Edel, was given back to me the land in which I lived, the vision that I had lost. To me, the sky and the sea and the mountains looked brighter, more real, for an enduring mist of guilt had been lifted from them all. I was content now to let the future resolve itself, for I knew that I could no longer break the trust of animal friendship. In the small hours of the 20th of January, 1968, fire swept through Camasfirna.
Gavin! The manuscript! Guns! The ammunition, now go!
Oh, my God. Edel. No human life was lost, and Tekka was saved. But Edel died with the house.
Richard, could you find it in your heart to bury Edel?
Of course. Where do you want me to put her?
Under the rowan tree. And mark her with a stone, if you would. She's on there, somewhere. You see, she couldn't get out.
Only then did I remember that this was the tree upon which he had been cursed.
Let Gavin suffer in this place as I am suffering now.
In 1969, cancer was diagnosed. The end was beginning.
All that was left were my words. All through the night, I watched the ruined door, intent as gamblers watch the fall of dice, waiting verdict, prisoner at the bar. Shadows crossed it. Once I heard a voice. At dawn, a mountain hind emerged alone. Quick step and sure as with some purpose known, some will that animates the unmarrowed bone, for through her ribs I saw the lichen stone. At noon, a naked form was there. A watcher, indistinct, began to follow as it turned and ran seaward over the shore. At dusk, a broken wheel appeared, held by a hand I could not see, and I knew that someone whom I feared had discovered an empty room in me.
For it hath pleased thee to deliver this our brother out of the miseries of this sinful world.
We who day to day depart from the country of the heart, in death return to the fields our feet have travelled, our tears sown. Sleeper beneath the rowan tree, you have become your dream, sky, shore, and silver sea.
Gavin Maxwell will always be remembered for Ring of Bright Water, a book which has given great happiness to millions of people with its invitation to escape into that magical world of Camasfirna, originally so happy, always so beautiful. But Maxwell must be remembered too, as the man who, through his love for otters, the understanding he acquired of them, the sympathy he won for them, probably did more than anyone else to secure their protection in England and Wales. Ironically, Scotland lags behind. The last words that Maxwell wrote express what so many of us feel.
We can no longer await some scientific revelation to avoid the destruction of our species. The evidence is all there. The way cannot be the same for all of us, but for those like myself, it means a descent of the rungs until we stand again amid the other creatures of the earth and share to some extent their vision of it.